Use the graph of the function to identify intervals of increase and decrease. I'm going to begin by annotating my graph here on the right, and notice that I begin at my x value of negative 2.6. Now, I begin by traveling downwards, and it's at this minimal point that I begin to switch directions. Here, I begin to go up. And then similarly, at this peak, this local peak, I'm going to begin to go down. So now I travel down all the way until I reach my next minimal point. And then I begin to go up again. Now, if I want to get my intervals of increase, I have to get all of the possible x values, or all of the x values in which my graph is going up. And that occurs in two locations. The first one is going to be right here on the left, and then the second one is going to be right here on the right. Let's go ahead and graph those intervals. My first interval is going to be from negative 2.6 all the way to negative 1.5. I'm going to include both values, so I'm going to use brackets. Negative 2.6 all the way up to negative 1.5. That's my first interval. Now, whenever you have two or more separate intervals, you're going to use this notation or this symbol, which is an upside down U for union. And now I can record the second interval, which is going to happen at 0.3. I'm going to include that. And since this graph extends forever, we're going to put or record infinity on the right. And recall that infinity, if we use interval notation, we have to use a parenthesis. Now I'm going to record the intervals of decrease, which happen everywhere I see an arrow going down. And that occurs at two places. The first one's going to happen from negative 3 all the way to negative 2.6. So I'm going to include the negative 3. However, I'm not going to include the negative 2.6 because remember that we already established that the 2.6 or negative 2.6, I should say, is part of the interval of increase. So it cannot be in both locations. So here I'm going to put a parenthesis to indicate that the negative 2.6 is not part of the decrease. Now I have to use the union symbol because I have another location where decrease occurs in this graph. And that's going to happen beginning at negative 1.5 and then ending at 0.3. I'm not going to include either value since, again, we already established that those two quantities are part of the increase. And that would be the intervals of decrease.